Hey everyone, Sandy here with Bella Rose Quilts. We are continuing our Prissy Pumpkins Sew Along by Heather Briggs of My So Quilty Life. And today we're going to be doing Pumpkin Block 3. So let's get started and have some fun. Okay, we're back to work on Block 3 using My So Quilty Life Prissy Pumpkins by Heather Briggs. And these are 3 of my Block 3s. There's a total of 4 in the quilt. So I thought I'd show these to you really quick. Very similar piecing techniques. You can see how I pressed them. Get rid of that thread. Just like that. So this is how I laid out my block 3. I have all my pieces with the alphabeties all the way around. And the first thing we're going to do on block 3 is we're going to take L. Here's L. L, there's 3 L's. These are the 1, 2, 3, the bottom pieces of the pumpkin, and 2 of the larger squares go here and the smaller go here. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue them on. I'm going to press these really quick like. Okay. Want them nice and flat. And we're going to take 2 J's. Those are the 2 corners out here. And then we're going to take 2 K's. Here's our K's. I think there's 4 of them. K's. And we're going to draw a line. Trying to find the back from the front. I'm going to put this back. Okay, and we have our 2 J's. Put that back, and I'm going to draw a line using one of my most favorite rulers. Love this ruler, the 3.5 by 6.5. Make sure you draw the line on the back of the fabric. Goes here. This one goes here. It's going to go over here. One of the things when you draw these lines, I'm going to put it up here so you can see it, is I always put my pen in the corner and then I put my ruler up against it, because if you put the ruler right here on the point, sometimes if it's not a really fine point, it'll push your line over. See, it's kind of pushed over a little bit, where I want it right there. So I put my pen down, and then I draw my line. This is a heat erasable marker. And here's number 4. So I just put a little glue there. I line up the edges so it's square. I'm going to put one here. And I'm going to put one here, one here. I'm going to make sure that I get the right side down here and draw my line. This is when I put 2 lines on. This one's going here. You can use pins. I find it much easier on the little ones to use the glue. I want to make sure I have the right side. Probably not, but it's okay. I'll put a little bit more dots here to hold this down. and I'm using I'll show you a better bottle. The Acorn Precision Glue, Seam-Align Glue. Love this stuff. So then I'm going to sew from corner to corner on each one of these. So I press these down like that. These are the corners. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to trim these off. I'm just trimming 1/4 of an inch. If you want to, you can use a ruler. So this one here, you can see it's off. It's because I didn't press it well. I should have pressed it a little better. I'll repress it when I go back. That's why I press and then I trim these off so I can see what shape it's in. Okay, throw these in the trash. So this goes on the outside, the bigger one. This goes on the outside, and this is the bottom. So what you can do is if you press both of the middle ones, the opposite direction of these, then they will butt up against each other when we sew them together. So I'm going to repress these. So I can show you what I mean here. We're not to that part yet, but when I go to put these together, you see how they just go in opposite directions. It just makes it a lot easier to piece them. Okay, so these are our L pieces ready to go. And now we're going to move on to the M and the P's. Here's our M. We have one M. And M goes on the left of the pumpkin, and P goes on the right of the pumpkin on the top. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to take our 2 J's, right here, draw a line on the back side. It's easier to tell front from back if you put it on a piece of fabric. But this is a really light white on white, so it's hard to see it. I put my pin there, draw my line. This one's going to go up here on the left side of the M, and the M is sideways like this. And then over here on the P, it's going to go right here. So I'll put my glue. Okay, there's those two. You're going to sew on this line and you're going to press. So we are back, and I'm going to go ahead and trim off 1/4. It's a little fat, but that'll work. And sometimes as I'm piecing things, I will repress to get my seams to line up, because right now we're doing this block and we're doing this block. So the seams are just fine going towards the outside corner, as you can see. So those are done. Actually, they aren't. We're going to put one here and one here. Throw those away. Okay, this is my C, and this is my I. Right here. Make sure I have the right sides. I'm to the point now to where it probably doesn't matter because I can't tell either way. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew these to the top of this. And I do pin at each end. Turn it around. Like this. This one here. Okay. Now, sometimes when you sew, I'm going to put it in like this so I know this isn't going to flip up. But if it were going the other way like this one, I will put another pin in here. Because that's a really not a very long space to sew. So let me sew these. We're going to use the green pumpkin here to show you. This goes here and this goes here. And if we turn it over, you can see that I have my seams pressed that way. And these seams I seem to have pressed open, but I'm wondering, I did it at the end. No, I did it in the early part. What we're going to do on this is we're going to draw a line on the side, wrong side of your background fabric. So one of the things that students will have issues with when they do this is big, so I'm not going to glue it, is that they go to put this point in the sewing machine and it gets pulled down into the feed dogs. This is when it's really helpful to have just a needle hole stitch plate instead of your oval stitch plate on, which, you know, the oval one allows you to do your wider stitches and your zigzag, where this only allows the needle to go in and so it doesn't get pulled down. Another thing you can do is use a starter, an ender, or leader and follower. There's lots of different names for it, and that's just where you sew on a little piece of, you know, scrap fabric and you start sewing on it, and then you butt this up against it. So I'm going to do this one, and then we have in right here, in, and we're going to use in with a Q. So I have another Q here, and we're going to draw the line on the back of in. And we're going to do this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go draw. We're going to sew on the drawn line. Be right back. Okay, so I sewed on the line, just one seam. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to, I am going to press these seams open per the instructions. Some people do not like to press open, some do. So you do you. And so then I am going to go back and I'm going to press these open. Okay, so here they are pressed open. And then we're going to take, there's the orange, here is the blue, right here, and we're going to take an H, here's your H background block, and we're going to draw a line right here on the back of your H. I have starched my fabrics, and H goes here and H goes here, and then over here we're going to take our O fabric. We're going to draw a line from here to here, and that goes here, and this goes here. And then I'm going to use my glue My dog got a hold of this glue and chewed a hole in it. It's all taped together. I could put it in a new one. It probably would be nice for doing YouTube videos to have a pretty bottle. Let's put this one here. This is our bow. Right here, and I'm going to sew here and here. And then I'm going to put 2 more down on the corners. So let me do that. Okay, so this is my R. R is a different color, and R is going to have a line drawn on it from corner to corner. So one of the things, you're going to laugh when I say this, but I always like to put these on so that I can read the writing. Do you see that you can read it? So I will draw my line from here to here, but that is me. Same with stripes. I lay it out just like that, and then I will determine where I'm going to draw my line. And sometimes I get it wrong. Okay, there's R. And this one here is going to go right here. And so, let's see. We can read it. It's like not great, so I'll probably go the other way. So you can read walnut there. So I'm going to draw my line this way. And I'm going to put my glue here. Okay. And now I'm going to go sew these down. Okay, so I sewed these down. I really shortened my stitch length, and we're going to press like this on all of these. And this is the bow. But the bow is going to go, this one goes down here because it's the color of the pumpkin. And you can see this is the yellow. And then this one is going to go here. So let me go press these and I will trim them. Now I pressed it. I'm going to trim. I did press in one direction, and the instructions say to press seams open. So I like to do this so I don't have to cut 2 things. Make sure you're right. Did you notice how I put it on top of my block to make sure it was right before I cut? Okay. Now I'm going to press the seams open. I did press these open, and I also used my little clappers here after I press the seams and let it cool off. The wood will absorb the heat. And same here. And it lays nice and flat. Make sure that you do, I turn my stitch length down to 1.5. So there's those 2. We're going to put those over there. Next, so this is this here. This is this here. And next we're going to do the stem. This is your stem. S, this is D, and E is going to go in the corner here. So let's work on the stem. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line on the back side from corner to corner, and it's going to be going right here, corner to corner, and I am going to glue it. One thing, if you're going to press seams open, you want to make sure you don't get in the 1/4 inch seam allowance with your glue. Wrong glue. We'll use this old glue here. Stick it here. And I'm just going to sew from here to here, and then I'm also going to take my little yellow R, and I'm going to go from corner to corner. And again, I'm going to put my glue down here. And then I'm going to go sew this on. So I sewed these on corner to corner. This one flips like that and this flips like this. One thing I do want to talk about here is don't start sewing here in the corner because this will pull down. Start sewing on a side seam if you can. This one has 2 side seams because it's a little smaller square. So we're going to press this open. Trim this off. And then I'll do that. And I did press it towards the solid cream block. Right there, that's where it goes. And I pressed it towards the solid background fabric. Now we're going to do the end, which is this, and we're going to put a R block in the corner. And again, you know, I'm going to make sure I can read the writing, which I can. So I'm going to draw my line from corner to corner. And I'm going to glue it on. And then I'm going to sew it down. Okay. Okay, so I went ahead and sewed that on the corner. I pressed the seams open. All of these seams are going to come together. That's why it's best to press them open. So this is the bow, you can see, and then this F gets sewn to the top of this piece right here. So I'm going to do that real quick and we're just about done. So we have these all sewn together. I attached my F to the top of the bow. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew these 2 together. And as you can see, these are going to have to match up. There's a couple of ways to do it. If you had pressed your seams in opposing directions, you could have just butted them up against each other and that would have been that. But since we didn't, because there are a bundle of seams coming together, I'm going to draw a 1/4 inch here. And I'm also going to put one right here on the other side so I can see the 1/4 inch mark. So I'm going to then press that very well. But I hope you can see. I'm just going to stick a pin here. And a pin here. And that holds those together. There are other ways to do this, but this is how I do it. Typically, I will just press in opposite directions because I get a really nice seam that butts up. I think I showed you that in the earlier videos. And then I'm going to put a pin up here. If it doesn't quite fit, you know, put the bigger piece on the bottom. You can always stretch it just a little bit and it will fit. Another reason to use starch. So this one is here and these 2 are here. Same thing. I'm going to mark my top one. Now remember when I marked these, the 1/4 inch line is right here. So the edge of this ruler is the 1/4 inch line. So I know this side is the edge of the ruler, not this side of that drawn line. So here, we only have to worry about this one matching up. And I line these up like this. And also pin these together. That sometimes helps hold it all up together for you. Sometimes it's hard to manage all those little pieces going in every which direction. So I hold it there just like that. And then I stick this pin in on each side. Because if I just twist that pin, they won't line up. So I do not sew over the pins. So then I'm just going to sew my 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to sew up to this pin, remove it, sew up to that pin, remove it. Same here, and sew all the way down. All right. So here's our bow right here. And I had a little bit of a problem getting one of them to match up at the point. So I ended up pressing one seam this way and one seam this way. And what that did is it and had them butt up against each other here, and they lined up perfectly. This one here came out just fine. All these little threads in here. I guess I should take those out. And the other thing I did is I pressed one seam this way and one seam this way because I'm just going to butt those up against each other and sew them together. And then we have this unit done. And again, these have to match here. This 1/4 of an inch has to match that 1/4 of an inch. So let's go ahead and mark the 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to do real quick like is I'm going to clean this edge up. I know that this is straight and that's straight. And I just cleaned them up. And this one's pretty clean. I'm going to mark the 1/4 of an inch right here. Here, here. I don't think I need that one or this one, but I'm going to mark it. And that one's on the bottom and this one's on the top. So I'm going to mark this one. Same places. Here, here, here. It'll help if I got it on the right mark. So these two butt up against each other. These two are just going to have to line up with each other. I know that that inside line's the right one. Right here. You could use 3 pins, like I showed you earlier. This. I'm going to pin here. Let me see what this has to match up against too. There's nothing for it to match up with, so we're good. There. And then I'm going to sew it together. Okay, so I did press these together. They came out pretty good with the little points. And I pressed the seam open. So this goes here. And our little piece here goes here. And this is the bottom of the pumpkin. This is the top. That's my dog's feet that you hear. One goes here and one goes here. So there's our little pumpkin. And we're going to, I'm going to sew this to this and this to this, and then these 3 together. So I do want to point something out here. I did not press these seams open, remember? Because I wanted to, this one would go here and this one would go here. I wanted them to go in opposite directions. So, so they butt up against each other or nest together on these little ones here. Just so you know, if you want to press them open, you are going to have to mark your 1/4 inch seams like I showed you earlier. So I'm going to pin these together. Again, these, and I nest them in like that, just like that. And I just put a pin there. I will also pin this bottom one together down there. I line up the edges. Remember, if they don't fit, just give it a little tug and it will fit. I feel like I need to glue that. It's so teeny. I'm going to pin up here. And I'm going to pin here. Again, these are going to nest with each other. I just push them together. Does help to look here. I don't know why I have thread hanging out here. Oh, it must have been where I started. If you use leaders and enders, that won't happen. And then also pin down here and here. Okay, I'm going to sew them. And bottom, and I just want to point out that nothing on the front of this, none of these seams need to match up. They're all just going whatever way. So I did not press open I'm a minimalist when it comes to pressing open. So now I'm just going to pin these together and we're going to finish the pumpkin. Okay, last step here. This is B. That was not good. Didn't unclip that very well. B. So I'm going to sew B to here, and I'm going to press the seams out towards the solid step. That's not good. Better repress that one. And then I'm going to attach A, just like we did on the other ones, to the top and the bottom. And you will notice that this is wider than the B is wider than A. So let me go do that. Miter on, and now I'm just going to go sew on top and bottom. So here's our block, and I'm just going to trim up my little seams here. Typically I'll just line it up and line it up there. I don't want to trim up my seams. I just want to trim up the little threads on the edge. And I turn it around. Do not use a square and square it up. And this one is this should measure 1 3/4. So there's our pretty block. Block number 3. Now on to block number 4, the final pumpkin block.